Hey, Brian Stevens, co-founder of Caissa K12, where we work to increase and stabilize public school enrollment across the United States. I've been getting a request a lot lately as chronic absenteeism rates rise across the United States. So if your district's having that issue, if you're having a hard time getting your babies to show up, you ain't alone. All right. So I'm gonna go through pretty quickly. If you watched some of my other videos, you know I probably talk too fast. But we've been getting this request on, well, how do we conduct a chronic absenteeism campaign? And of course, we're always here to help. But if you can take this and use it on your own for your own district, and it increases or decreases your chronic absenteeism, increases your student attendance, go for it, man, because that's our mission and we want to help. So, little disclaimer, little caveat. You know, I'm a lawyer, of course. I got to give the disclaimers up front. Is we removed the identifying district information, and we do that a lot. Some of our school districts, especially when we do like secret shoppers or surveys, they don't want all that data published. So we remove the information for those districts that so desire it. So let's talk about the problem. And the problem was we have a district, and this was in Texas. They had chronic absenteeism rate at 38%. Now, 5 years ago, I'd have been like, 38%? Well, 38% is a lot more normal than I think any of us would like. The nationwide, in the early 2000s, chronic absenteeism rate, national average, was somewhere around 15%. And now it's approaching 25%, and in a lot of districts over 40%. So this is definitely a problem. It's definitely a challenge and one that needs to be addressed. I think the district had really reasonable goals of reducing it in the first year by 10%. Now, I should go through this a little bit for you. What is a reasonable goal for reduction of chronic absenteeism? Well, it depends. It depends on what your current chronic absenteeism rate is, and it depends on a lot about your demographics, your culture, population, and how do families react to things. And so, first off, let's just talk about what's reasonable. And the bigger the larger the chronic absenteeism number, the more you should be able to reduce it, right? Like that kind of makes sense. So 10%, if they're at 38%, reducing it 10%. Yeah, man, I think that's doable in the first year. It takes work, it takes effort, it takes a team. And what I mean by a team is it takes the school district, it takes the parents, and sometimes they have to augment it where we can, expand what the district's capable of. They're supposed to be teaching and educating the children. We're here to do these campaign functions. And so it takes a uniform, controlled effort. So it takes a lot of people on the same page. Now, once you hit that 12 to 15% chronic absenteeism rate, it's a lot harder to reduce it more than that. It just, there's a weird thing out there in the world, and it makes me sad, but 8 to 11% of the population just doesn't care about their kids in a lot of cases. Now, it could be 5% in your district. It could be 14% in your district. That's part of the pre-research that needs to be conducted. But when you get into those single digits, you're probably doing awesome. You're great. If you're at 7 or 8% chronic absenteeism rates, man, maybe you need to look at globally where else you could spend the money instead of trying to lower it to 2%. I know that stinks for me to say out loud. I didn't make humanity the way it is, but there might be other low-hanging fruit that you need to worry about in your district first, besides trying to reduce it below 9%, right? Now, if you got all that other stuff going, great, keep working on getting those kids into school, right? But so in this case, 10% reduction, we talked about it with the district, talked about their budget, the resources, and we did some research, and I'll begin to that. So 10% seemed really reasonable. From 38 to 28% seems great. We'd obviously like to get it from 28% down to in that teens number in 2 years. So anyway, that's probably the long-term goal. So let's do a quick executive summary of the results, and then we're going to kind of dig into what happened. So over the course of this first year, and I think this campaign ran from, I should have these notes, but I'm not real smart. We started a little late with them. We started in October, and we ran it until May. So we didn't have that September month to kind of prep. A little behind. That's okay, man. Let's get started. Never wait to get started on being awesome, right? So here's what happened. 13.68. Yeah, some technocratic nerd couldn't have just rounded it up to 14%. They wanted to be accurate. 13.68% decrease in chronic absenteeism. So achieved the goal. One outlier was this time savings. And we worked with the district team and calculated with them that we saved staff time in the district. We saved 40% of their time. Now, this is really critical for part 2 and 3 of chronic absenteeism reduction. The gist is, if we can save your time, if you can find a way to save your time and dealing with the less complex issues that would get the children into school, then your team can handle the more complex issues, right? And so that's where that team approach comes in. We save them 40% time, and I hope that wasn't so that they can sunbathe. I know in public school, everyone's working too hard. They're not out going to the beach with that extra time. What they're doing is they're using that to focus on the children most in need, and isn't that awesome? So that's awesome. Now, we returned over this campaign 3,800, a little over 3,800 students. And with the district, we calculated that increased their budget by $2.3 million, or at least it didn't deplete their budget by 2.3 because the kids weren't showing up. And they use the ADA, the average daily attendance scale. And in this case, nationwide, chronic absenteeism costs the district between $540 and $900 per year per student that doesn't make it. But they figured it was about $600 savings they got. So it wasn't on that higher end. It's about the $600 window is what they got, what they kept. It's really funny because I keep thinking, it didn't grow the budget. They had already budgeted the 2.3, but the budget lowered if those kids didn't show up. So they cost the district from losing $2.3 million, right? So maybe we should have charged more. I don't know. So I'm joking. We have set pricing. All right, but anyway, this is when you're thinking about running a really rigorous intervention campaign. You got to think about the kids going to school. And then your staff saving their time from running around trying to find people. I'm going to get into that. And then also, what are you losing in the budget if you don't run the campaign? That's the real tricky wicket to this, because you're losing that money, you don't know about it till the end of the year. And then all of a sudden you got budget cuts. You can't give raises to your teachers and your staff, and you can't buy new computers or whatever it is. So look, how's a good campaign run, right? And this is how any good campaign should run. Now I'm gonna explain to you why the way we run it is different than all the software companies, than all the tech companies. Now, we're a tech company, we're a software company. I get it. We have software and techs and all that cool stuff. But it's not a nudge. It's not a, hey, go back and return with an email and just a text message. No. It's like you don't raise money by marketing if you're a nonprofit. You raise money by making an ask and looking somebody in the eye and solving problems and helping people. And that's what we do. Right? So certainly we will use, and you should use, mass email, mass text messages to communicate. And in this first block, really what you're trying to discover is, hey, Rashay, hey, Shamika, hey, Bri, that's what Rashay calls me. It's weird in the office. Is, why aren't you, what's going on? And now, the psychology of what to say in these is very complex. It's got to be positive, it's got to be upbeat, and it's got to be embracing. It cannot shame the parents. Don't use shame. Don't do it, because people will just completely bow out. And so you want to let them know you care. I know you do. And you want to let them know it's cool to come back. We really appreciate you. And the analogy I've got is, you haven't called a friend in a long time. They haven't called you. You haven't called them. And when you finally call them after like 6 months or a year, they go, why don't you ever call? And they kind of give you a hard time about it. Instead of going, oh, I'm so excited to see you. Thanks for being here. Because the next time that you think about calling that person, you haven't talked to them 6 months, you go, man, I don't want the grief. Why do I want to call them and get a bunch of attitude? So you can't get the attitude, not in the first few rounds, right? So you're determining what the issue is. And I'm going to dig into that when we get into the particulars of this exact district. You got to figure out why they're not showing up, and you want to start resolving those issues, right? Now, this is real key, is you can't get impatient. 9 to 21 interactions, contacts, reach out before you get bored. 9 to 21 is the normal thing. People get so much noise and energy, and they're so busy, and they've got their entire lives that they're trying to do other things. You got to cut through that. And so you can't get impatient. And you've got to have your team, and this is why it's so valuable to find ways to save your team's time. And so, yeah, we use emails and text message, but the real special thing is outside of the technology. It's real people calling during the hours they're home, nights and weekends, early mornings. I got it. You got to find them. And so you see this complex process here, but it's just about repetitiveness. And the first goal is figure out their issue, right? Figure out their issue. And so we're going to get into what those issues are in a minute. And so we had this, I think you got to think about it like in a circular process. This is kind of a neat little chart that somebody on our team put together. But so you start with outreach, you're doing proactive, positive messaging, you're going continued outreach, your care team is out there working to solve these issues, you're tracking what the issues are that most of your families have. So your team eventually can learn how to resolve those maybe on a global scale for all students if it's a pressing issue that could come up like anxiety, depression, transportation issues, whatever. So that's kind of the process. Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this particular client, this particular awesome school district, is they wanted to do a pre-launch survey. This is not necessarily needed. And the one thing that was really done well about this is they did this in tandem with us getting started, right? You can wait a little too long on doing the research. Look, I'm a research nerd. I love to research. And I think it was valuable for them to do the research so they can grow and learn for their entire team, their board, the superintendent, to know what needs to be done globally, right? Why the boots on the ground are out there structuring it. So ultimately, we did a pre-launch survey, and then we're gathering data as we go forward with their team, and then it kind of cultivates at the end into this like report that they can use to go forward with also, right? So a couple highlights that we learned during the pre-launch survey is 74% of the people in this particular district, 74.3, 74% said that they didn't really know what chronic absenteeism meant, and they didn't know it was a problem. Like they did not know that missing 10% of the days was an issue. I know this tracks with our national data, by the way. Nationally, and we polled students and families that were chronically absent. So in this particular poll, we only talked to the people that had chronically absent kids, and they didn't know either. They didn't know the standard. So the first thing we knew we had to do as a team is let them know what the standards are. Let them know that they're missing too many days and it's not cool. And we have to give a laundry list of the reasons on the negative effects. And I have a longer video on that. And hopefully we'll link to that here or something. And you know, like the devastating effects of not showing up, the devastating effects on grades and retention and your long-term prospects for jobs, all that stuff has got to be explained to the parents ad nauseum, right? And so we got a ton of research if anyone's interested in that. And then so the converse on this is 93% of these same parents said that it's important for their children to attend. They just don't know what attendance means, right? Which is kind of interesting. And then you get some parents that say it's okay to miss for certain activities when it's really not okay. And that's an education issue too, for sure, right? And so we had more information in this, but the most important thing that we discovered are what are the primary issues? And we know across the nation from doing this, there are a lot of common issues that cause children not to attend school, right? And you kind of see this laundry list from homelessness. We've got some strategies for that. Chronic health issues, bullying, all these things. And in this particular issue, we decided to track the main drivers were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 6 main drivers in this district that we felt that weren't going to overwhelm us, overwhelm the staff and the team. And then we kind of wanted to track how we were doing in these categories. It's going to be different for every district, right? So once we knew what we were tracking and what issues we were trying to resolving, not tracking. I didn't say that right. We are working to resolve the issues, not just tracking and telling you they ain't showing up. Like that's like no duh. Like we know they're not showing up, right? Like they're not in the school. They're not in the school. So we know they're not showing up, right? So this is about resolving issues. And I wonder when they're not chronic absenteeism intervention resolution campaign. That's too many words, but that's what it is. We're resolving issues with your team, right? So these are those particular issues in that district. So what did we do? What happened? Because it's not about like a book report. It's about activities. It's about action, right? Over the course of this campaign, we sent 53,000 emails, 53,216 emails. Oh my gosh, tight people wrote this. 14,000 live calls during nights and weekends. Not all those, I don't think were during the nights and weekends, but it included nights and weekends. We're certainly calling during the day too. 42,000 text messages. Okay. And then I think that this next chart is paramount. And we track this because we have to give you like a monthly fee of what it's going to cost, right? Like we got to give you a fee on what it's going to cost. And we have to do estimates on how many times we're going to have to contact people. And you see it. Look, some people are resolved down here in the lower things. We get the low-hanging fruit. Maybe they're sick today, but they're coming back tomorrow. And now your teachers and your staff don't have to use their time to find that out. We let you know. We let you know because we reach out to them 7 to 9, 8 times. And sometimes this is a course of just a couple days. And then you see the bulk of them is in this 13 to 19 window. And now the 21 plus contacts is really after initial contact, we're working to resolve issues. And some people, it takes more time and more complexity to go back and forth with the district and the family, support them towards maybe like resources in the city that are really even outside the school district. And so we work with the school district on the front end to say, look, we have people homeless. What are the resources we can refer them to? Are they in your district or are they outside the district? What about transportation issues? Do we have to call the bus company? Do we have to connect them with that? We can't get the buses to move. You might not be able to get the buses to move, but can we connect with somebody that will attempt to figure out a way to make it simpler? That's really about what resolution is. So it's a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of contacts. It's man, it is just work. It's just work. But man, when those kids show up, it's pretty rewarding. It's pretty rewarding. So we dig it, right? And so once again, we hit this executive summary of what happened. And then just to let you know, the data that follows this report is, I think, really important for the next year and ongoing. And you'll see that we started breaking people down. Like, where are they? Look, you get 3.3% that weren't going to, they're not coming. They switched schools, they left, whatever that is. Well, great. I mean, it's not great, but at least we know not to start like spending months trying to find these people. We found them a lot faster than had they self-reported. They didn't self-report. They just moved, right? And so take those off the plate now, because we're not wasting 3.3% time we're spending 40% of our time with the people that aren't coming back. Then we can start dealing with these need assistance, these complex categories, right? These are probably these uncategorized needs assistance, probably really special stuff. 44% of the total group of chronic absenteeism. And that's probably, in this case, district had to deal with it. So those people were digging into that stuff. Transportation issues. We have a whole nother block of refuse to attend and no longer in the district. They wanted to track that separately in this district. Some put that together. It's very customized, right? So they thought their child was attending. This was my mom. Wait, this was my mom. What do you mean little Brian's not in school again? I skipped a lot of school in 7th grade, man. They would give me like the notes to send home, or like I'd come in, they go, get your mom to sign this. I have my sister sign it or something. So like a lot of people just aren't aware, and we let them know your baby not here. And then some people will obviously fix that accordingly, which is pretty awesome. And then we break the data down for future use into different, like, you deal with the list, right? So this week these people are absent, and you want to kind of track that data into little buckets and everything like that. And ultimately, in this case, 3,800 kids, 3,841 children. Oh my God, 3,841. I guess precision is pretty good. And it increased the overall, did not increase the budget. I've got to stop saying that. It stopped the budget from being depleted by $2.3 million. And that is a very different thing than our student recruitment campaigns, which increase the budget. So you got to protect both sides of it. So look, I think that if I was going to summarize this quickly, some big buckets. First off, you got to get the initial contact to find out what's going on. Number two, you got to start working on those issues, right? Number three, you're letting the district or you resolve those issues and putting some good data together for future use and to improve your systems. And then you're cycling it back and forth to lower that rate. So that's 18 minutes. It's probably too long. I'm sorry. Maybe they'll break this up into parts for you, but I really thought that this was important to do a deep dive on a thorough case study. And I want you to get those kids in school. Let's get to it. Thanks.